Hello, I am at my school. I am back in Denmark after my trip to Italy, where I got to play a game against a Milanese player called Ludovic. Hi, Ludovic, which if you're watching. Um, and I wanted to talk you guys through the game and how it went, and maybe give you a little bit of insight into the tactical decisions that were made along the way. So this is a sort of a Batrep, where I've drawn up the board that we played on my whiteboard here. Um, I'll talk you through the board first, and then I'll talk you through what happens. So we had some roads going through the board, but not all the way to one of the edges. They went to this southern edge, but not the northern edge. They were like cut off by a crater up here. Um, then we had a few forests. We had a forest over here, and one here. And two hills, one and one. From there is all like hardcover ruins and stuff. We had a building here, a house, with some very high walls next to it, and one on the other side here as well. They blocked line of sight for everything. They were like this tall or something, really big, like chunky walls. Then we had two ruins, one up here and one here. And this whole area here was filled up with, like, it was an oil field of some sort. There were towers and there were like pumps scattered around. It's a lot of hard cover for infantry, but really difficult to get through with vehicles, right? Here we had some fields in this area, some fences, but not a lot. We agreed that it was just scenic and soft cover. And then we had a trench system running here, hardcover trenches for infantry, and they had like a push-up against that opening up there, which as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is very, very interesting. If I get the chance, I'm going to pick this side. We roll off, and Ludovic wins, and he picks that side, which I must admit I was very, very happy about. I had predicted that he would pick the other side just because those trenches would give him hard cover from everything. And he had a lot of infantry armed with assault rifles, so if I was going to move up to him, he would have hard cover and could be in those trenches, and that would be bad for me. So I was expecting him to pick this side. He didn't. I forgot to ask him why afterwards, which was a shame. So anyone of you watching can possibly tell me, why would you pick that side? Because I don't understand it. I really don't. Yes, there were two like total line of sight blockers, the forests. So maybe he was going for that. Nothing in his list actually spoke to me that he needed like line of sight blockers, and we ended up playing No Man's Land, the kill point mission. So, and that's yeah. Anyways, we roll out the mission. It's kill points. It's No Man's Land. There are preparatory bombardments. So of course I warn him that I'm playing British and I, get those two dice. So, and we roll. His comes down. A lot of my stuff. I've started my infantry on the board. Of course, I'll show you where I put them in a second. His comes down. It kills like one dude in one unit, and the rest gets pins. Not too bad. I roll mine. Of course, it's a 1. So I don't get my preparatory bombardment. It ended up not being that important because, it had made sure that Ludovic's armor, he had a Puma, it stayed off the board. So there it goes. By the way, the lists, both mine and Ludovic, I've made videos for them. So if you want to go and watch the list, I'm not going to go through them in details here. But you can go in and watch my videos on the lists. Now, placement. I got a lot of my dice out first, so I got to place first. And I had already noticed one thing. I had brought an anti-tank gun. That anti-tank gun it had one target and one target only. The only thing it really needed to shoot at was his Puma. He had brought a Puma 8 plus medium anti-tank gun, I think. So it was the only thing that was really dangerous for any of my vehicles, really. He had Panzerfaust, but they're very short range, right? So I noticed one thing, that if I placed my anti-tank on here, I could sort of shoot at this area, and I could shoot at that area. But I needed to be sure where he would place his Puma. So what I did was I kept the anti-tank gun in reserve and placed infantry instead, because I knew that I wanted to place it here, but I also knew that I wanted him to place his Puma up here in this corner first. So I was keeping my anti-tank gun back until I could lure his out. And then I kept my trucks and my armored car, my Daimler Dingo, and my Stewart all in reserve. All of the infantry went in. Now, I ended up basically having infantry line up sort of like this. They were behind cover. Some of them were even in the trenches. And I knew that turn 2, if I could move, I would be able to move fully up into the trenches and be in a really good position for a firefight. I could even move stuff up along the flanks or maybe through it. Like my tank or my trucks, they could support that firefight. My trucks had pintle-mounted MMGs on them, so this was a really good position to fight his army from. So that was what I did. I put my infantry there. I placed one unit of Gurkhas over here, and that was mainly because I wanted to dissuade him from pushing too much on this side with infantry. I wanted to make sure that he didn't that what he came with was his tanks, so that I could place my anti-tank gun here and sort of pin them down. So I had one unit of Gurkhas over there. They were of course very scary, and he kept away from them. So I achieved my objective of making sure that he didn't push that flank by just placing one unit of Gurkhas there, and then having the rest of my infantry in this advantageous position over here. Now, he placed a squad of Germans up here, and they had 2 LMGs. So he was like, this is a good fire position, they can fire from cover. It turned out to be a horrible mistake. If you look at it, they were exposed. They were exposed to all of my dudes down here, and to the support that I had coming in my trucks, my MMGs. And that firefight, they ended up losing that firefight, because it was a 5-man group with 2 LMGs, so that was it. That was all he had. And yeah, it just didn't pan out for him, because I had way more units shooting at that one target. The rest of his infantry all sort of lined up down here in groups. I hope you can see that. Where he felt like he had total cover, where he felt secure. And then he places his sniper in the ruin here, where he could see all of my trench dudes. And I was like, this is the best ever. I just need to place now my forward artillery observer, my British free forward artillery observer, someplace where that sniper can't get me. So I thought about placing him in the oil field, but that would have been a mistake, because that would have been inside my own deployment zone. So I ended up placing my forward artillery observer just outside my deployment zone, behind that forest there, knowing that as soon as the prep bombardment was over, I would run down, grab hard cover, and then look up here to place my my artillery strike up in the center of his infantry. That was the plan from the start. And early game, this is how it pans out. My infantry, of course, moves up into the trenches. I gain different positions here along the trench. And that's brilliant. I start shooting out a bit, but mostly I rally and I move up. I move up a truck to support them, and that starts the firefight with his dudes on the other side. We exchange pins for a long time. I kill like one of his, and he doesn't kill me. So it takes time, and it delivers pins to him, and it takes away his attention with those machine guns. I have a second truck that only moves in middle game, but then I get my steward in, and I move it in here. But before I move in my steward, I do one thing, and that is I move in my Daimler Dingo over here. Now this was a risk. It was a calculated risk. My Daimler Dingo has 8+ armor. It has Recce, so it's really good when it hasn't got a dice on it. But this time I had to move it in from reserve. I move it in because I wanted to lure his Puma onto that side over there. Remember I told you I wanted his Puma over there? So I give him a target to shoot at. I give him my Daimler Dingo. If it dies, I can live with it. It's not that expensive, it's not very good. But it does have a lot of armor, and he has to move, and it will be long range. So he will shoot on a 5+. He takes the bait. He moves up his Puma, it moves up here, and it shoots, and it misses. From there on in, each turn that he shot at my Daimler Dingo, I just Recce'd, moved away. Behind cover, behind the trees, that was it. As soon as he had moved his Puma up, I advance my tow for the anti-tank gun and place the anti-tank gun here so that it can lie on ambush and watch his Puma. Middle game, my Gurkhas here move up towards the ruins up here. He had some, I think it was one of his infantry units that ended up moving over here. He had some shirkers or something near that ruin. The rest of my troops sort of shuffle along. I move up to this point of the trenches, and my firebase down here, it just starts pumping out shots. My steward pumps shots into his infantry up here, supported by my own infantry and by my truck. So he starts taking a lot of pins on his infantry units. And since he has assault rifles on everything, he's not really able to reach me that well. He has to move forward. So what he does is he moves infantry up around this ruin. That was a mistake. Now his infantry is clumped up. He has 4 or 5 units plus a lieutenant in that ruined area there, and I place my artillery bombardment, of course. Place it right there. Late game. My artillery bombardment comes down. Everything in that area is hit. I roll a 5 for range, so it's 11 inches range. Everything is hit. Everything is pinned to smithereens. My Gurkhas charge his shirkers and kill them up near the ruin. That was the only thing I charged, by the way, with Gurkhas. No, I actually get to charge one more unit. It was like, there was no contest, right? I could have killed like 8 times as many of his, so the Gurkhas were clearly overkill. In response to my Gurkhas, he runs up a truck full of engineers. into that area. And I had been expecting this, and I was worried about it. I hadn't really got a response, so my Gurkhas were lumped together as best as I could from as far away from him as possible. But I didn't think it was far enough. And he chooses, instead of going after my Gurkhas with a flamethrower in his engineer squad, he chooses to jump them into this forest. Which, I'm sorry, I can't explain why he did that. I think he thought that he didn't have range. If he had moved directly towards my Gurkhas, I think he would have had range. What's even worse is when he moves in there, he says that he's shooting. And then he measures for the flamethrower. Then we have a very brief discussion. My argument is, if you measure for the flamethrower, that means you have shot it. So you have to roll for it to run out of ammo. He concedes that point, and he rolls 1. So his flamethrower dies. And that was not good. Very, very much not. He needed that flamethrower in order to stop the Gurkhas, but at that point, he couldn't really. I knew that he was out of range. It didn't really matter. I was not going to charge his infantry. It was right next to a Puma. I might get shot up, right? So I knew I was going to win. This infantry is pinned down. This is pinned down. Everything is pinned down. The only thing that he can move with is his Puma, and that can't move because my anti-tank gun is here, and it's on ambush. It's just sitting there waiting for him to do something, which of course he doesn't because he can't. While all his infantry is pinned down, that turn, I think it was turn 4 or 5, my infantry runs up out of the trenches. All of it moves up far as it can go. And by that point, I'm actually within 6 of his sniper in the ruin, and so turn 5 gets to be really critical, right? Everything is, by that point, still a bit pinned, and then I get the first dice, and I start charging. Regular infantry and Gurkhas, all of it, just charge. My regular infantrymen charge his sniper, kill it. My Gurkhas charge across into this unit up here, kill it. The steward moves up here and shoots this unit in here to smithereens. Doesn't kill it, but pins it down. I think he had 5 pins or something at the end. Even my toe moves up and starts shooting. So everything at that point is just pushing into his lines, and he is losing a lot of units. By that point, I think he had lost 5 units, and he had killed 1. He actually ended up with those LMGs killing my truck down here. So at the end of turn 5, it's 5-1 in my favor, and he has lost most of his army. Most of his infantry is dead. Most of my infantry is right in his center, where it can sort of peel off and kill the final few units. His Puma has done absolutely nothing for most of the game, bogged down by my ambush, can't move, can't do anything. I have Gurkhas up here, infantry, and he simply concedes, says that was it, I've lost this game. And I agreed, and I congratulated him on a game well fought. He had actually kept me busy for 4 turns with the firefight. The firefight takes a long time, and this was an unusual way for me to play. Those of you who have played me will know that I'm usually very aggressive. I like to be able to move my stuff. This prolonged firefight followed by a push was very, very unusual, but the plan was set in motion right from the start. I knew exactly what I wanted to do right from the start. I wanted to pin down his Puma so that it didn't bother me. I wanted to have his infantry be pinned so that I could push my infantry towards it. And I wanted my own support units to simply deliver those pins. And they did. It worked really well. The army worked well, even though it had suboptimal choices. I mean, some of his choices were also suboptimal. So it wasn't the lists that did it. Yes, the Gurkhas are really cheesy and OP, but they didn't really do that much. Each Gurkha unit killed 1 enemy unit in close combat, that's what they're supposed to do. And then they took casualties from shooting, right? But that was it. So that wasn't what won me the game. What won me the game was that combination of factors that I had already set in motion, of pinning down what was threatening me by ambushes, and of pinning his infantry so that I could push. Combined arms, and that won the game. Cheers!